The theme of Romans Talk tonight is somatic healing.
6 months after her car accident, Wendy was telling her therapist, boy, if you would have told me that 6 months after my car accident, I would have still been in pain, I wouldn't have been able to handle it because I didn't know it was going to last this long. 6 years later, Wendy was still in pain. What happened was she was driving down her roads in Pennsylvania, which are narrow roads, and there was a set of stoplights up ahead. Well, her stoplight was red, but she was looking at the stoplight ahead of that one, which was still green. As a result, she was in the intersection when a crossing taxi came and boom, hit her car. Her car goes tumbling over multiple times, and she had to get cut out of the car by the emergency professionals. Now, the injuries that she experienced were seemingly not going to be life-threatening or chronic, but she was still suffering on a psychosomatic level. So she still had pain in her body and stiffness in her body as a result of the trauma she experienced on a psychological level. Likewise, persons can still feel a stiffness or pain. They can have shakes or tremors in their body. They could have consistent nightmares or sickness on a physiological level, meaning the physical body is affected as a result of something traumatic that they experienced. So why is it that the body is experiencing physical results of psychological trauma? Well, when we have psychological trauma that starts to manifest itself in the body, that's called psychosomatic symptoms. The definition of somatic is something that's related to the body, especially as being distinct from the mind. So many people like Wendy found relief when they finally started to approach somatic healing, which is healing the body as, or the trauma in the body as is distinct from the mind. But is the trauma literally inside of our body? Well, anyone who works in the somatic field would emphatically say yes. And those who have been helped by somatic practitioners would also agree. They feel like the trauma is in their body. You may be able to relate to those feelings, like the trauma is in my shoulder, it's in my heart, or it's in some physical part of the body, and it just needs to be released. Those feelings that you're experiencing are real. But is the trauma really in the body? Well, of course, psychological trauma isn't literally stored in a physical place. The reason why it's described as being in the body, even by professionals and practitioners, is because there's a lack of understanding of the subconscious mind. For all intents and purposes, the subconscious mind is synonymous with the body. That is why when you get a bullet to the brain, if that bullet pierces the part of the brain that controls the subconscious functions of the body, then the body ceases to stay alive. In the very moment that you lose the part of the mind that's allowing the body to stay functioning, the body ceases to be alive. The subconscious mind is synonymous with the body. It's controlling all of the functions that we don't have to think about. Our heart, our immune system, our endocrine system, our respiratory system, our cardiovascular system. The subconscious mind is controlling those things. It also controls the psychological perception of trauma. So what is trauma? Trauma is anything that we experience that's distressing and causes a change in us that is undesirable in some way. It's anything we experience that is distressing and causes an undesirable change in us. You see, when you're attacked, for instance, it could be a trauma for you. It could be such a violation to you. It could be so distressing that your subconscious mind automatically, not of your asking or of your doing, it automatically takes a snapshot of that traumatic event. Why? So that it can keep you safe from having to experience it again. It is an automated function. It came pre-programmed in you as a human child. You can't turn the function off. The function is automatic. So when you experience a trauma, your subconscious mind automatically takes that snapshot of the situation, which is going to encapsulate the senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? What am I tasting? So that if ever you taste, smell, see, or hear something similar, suddenly you have this flashback or this reaction, and the reaction is immediate. In fact, it's directly coming from the body, the physiological responses. You will feel the heart pounding, the grip tightening, the sweat start to go, more heat being produced in the body. You may feel it in the gastrointestinal, the bowels start moving. Now, what's happening? Your body's responding, right? Why? Well, it's a trauma response, right? Correct. But please don't miss, it's really the subconscious mind, which is synonymous with the body. The subconscious mind is what takes in that perception of what you're tasting, seeing, hearing, smelling, and then says, hey, this reminds us of trauma. Immediately, let's alert the human to the situation. So we are pre-programmed to be able to survive in the same design as the animals. That's why we call the subconscious mind the animal brain. We are pre-programmed to survive. So there's automatic default functions. Fight, flight, freeze are automatic default functions, as well as the fawn response. They're automatic ways of surviving very difficult, very scary, life-threatening situations. Fight, flight, freeze. Typically, an animal, when cornered, will try to run or will try to fight and strike in such a way as to get itself to safety, to ensure its survival. This is a genius design. But what happens if the animal can't fight? It can't run away, which is flight. It can't appease its attacker, which is fawn. Then what? Well, then the animal has to go into freeze response. And you will see this in nature with a prey like a possum that is running away from a predator or sees a predator and all of a sudden plays dead. It just freezes, like goes catatonic, and it doesn't move anymore. It's just like, hello, what's happening with this thing? You can walk right up to it. You can pick the possum up. You can turn it around. You can move it around, and it's just still. And then when the threat is gone and everyone leaves, what happens? The possum starts to move again. It reanimates, and then it goes away. What was that? That was freeze response in action. It really works on predators because when whatever it was supposed to eat the animal comes and sees the animal is already dead, it goes away looking for more lively prey to chase. That's freeze response in action. Even very large animals, when they are being attacked by a larger predator, will go into a freeze, a shock response. And you've heard that, right? Oh, he's in a state of shock. Being in a state of shock is freeze response. You're not moving, you're catatonic, you're frozen. That's freeze response. It's a way of surviving a difficult scenario or situation. When we go into freeze as humans, can be because of some type of trauma, an abuse, an attack, an assault, being at war, and being hit by weapons, shrapnel, or an explosion, being in a car accident. We can go into a shock, and as a result of that shock, then we are no longer functioning fully as humans. So this can happen on various levels. For some humans, they're so in shock that from the time of that trauma, they stop speaking. This happens to many children. Because of that shock, it is as if they can no longer speak. For some, they can no longer move their body as a result of the shock. For you, however, you may have developed a hybrid response. You see, you may have still some movement in your body, but there may be a stiffness. It could be a stiffness in your spine, can be a stiffness in your jaw, in your neck, in your shoulder, in your knees, in your lower back, in your waist. Could be something that was directly involved in the attack or the assault. And so as a result, now your brain relates that part of the body with the trauma, and as a result, has the lock on it. The brain has locked it into place. The subconscious mind has locked it. The trauma is not literally there. The subconscious mind has locked that part of the body off. In some cases, people lose parts of their brain, access to parts of their brain or their memory as a result of trauma. And so now they're experiencing somatic symptoms, which is in the body, believed to be separate from the mind, but in reality is fused with the subconscious part of the mind. For some, they can have chronic pain as a result of the trauma. For some, they can have gastrointestinal distress as a result of the trauma. This happens because the energy that would go into flight or would go into fight has nowhere to go. So it goes into a freeze response. So there's actual energy put into the bowels, into the intestines, that causes you to then have bodily reactions to the trauma. And you go, is the trauma inside my intestines? It's the freeze response needing a place to push the energy. We may have cardiovascular symptoms such as heart palpitations, chest pain, high blood pressure. We may have neurological symptoms such as dizziness, numbness, tingling, seizures. We may have headaches, migraines. We may have respiratory issues, breathing, shortness of breath, hyperventilation, feeling of suffocation. We may have difficulty sleeping, insomnia, nightmares, night sweats. We may have skin disorders, eczema, psoriasis, hives. All of these are exacerbated and triggered by trauma. It's not real because it's psychosomatic. Oh, it's very real. We need to start respecting how real the mind is, because that produces real chemical and real electrical energy. And then that energy needs to go somewhere. And it starts going into parts of the body, locking them off or freezing them as a way of trying to keep you safe. It can manifest itself as immune system dysfunction, autoimmune disorders, making you more susceptible to infections. It can manifest itself as sexual dysfunction, loss of libido, pain during intercourse, difficulty maintaining or achieving arousal. It can manifest itself as cognitive impairments such as concentration, memory function. You can feel like you have a brain fog. It can manifest itself as chronic fatigue. Some people just literally have a part of their body that can't seem to move. One man, he was so stiff, and he would just have like shudders of his body every once in a while. When he worked with his somatic healer, he started to gain more control over the body. How did they do it? Just by little, moving and accessing parts of the body. His healer started with the jaw. He just said, just move your jaw up and down. And as he started to move his jaw, then move his neck, it took multiple sessions, but he started to feel a tingling in the legs. How is that? He's recommunicating through the somatic exercises to his subconscious mind. It's okay. I'm safe. I'm in control. That's the message you must give your subconscious in order to heal the somatic symptoms in the body that you are experiencing. It's okay. I'm safe now. I am in control. By reassuring the subconscious mind, the subconscious then the subconscious mind is then signaled to release control back to you. It has to get the approval to release the control back to you. And believe me, that's where we need to be. We don't want to be stuck in trauma, with trauma frozen in the body. We don't want that. We need to be back in control. There is a very specific way to organize the mind, the way you operate your life, your brain. It's a leadership system. Just like there is a boss and an assistant in a company, the boss has hired the assistant for his or her abilities to advise as well as to get work done. They are a second pair of eyes and a brain, and then they also know how to get work done. So a good assistant goes to a boss when there's a problem and says to the boss, sir, or ma'am. And now sometimes the boss will pay attention. Sometimes the boss will be busy. But what happens if you as the boss are too busy to listen to your assistant? Well, if it's important, the assistant will then come back again and bother you again. Sometimes they come louder. Sometimes your kids will do this. Mom, right? Because they're trying to get your attention. It becomes louder trying to get the attention of the leader. This is the same way the hierarchy of the mind works. Your subconscious mind is built to be subordinate, an assistant to you, the conscious being. The subconscious mind is built to be subordinate to you, the conscious being. And so the subconscious mind will give signals to you. What are the signals that you are supposed to be listening to? Do you know? The subconscious mind gives feelings. When you experience anxiety, depression, sadness, anger, these pangs of distress are energy, emotion through the body, literally chemical, emotional, electrical responses that are shooting through the body. You must respond. You must pay attention to these impulses because they are there to warn you, to get your attention. But what happens if you ignore? Well, if you ignore your assistant, she'll just have to keep coming back stronger and louder. If you ignore your child, he'll just have to keep coming back stronger and louder. And what happens when you ignore your anxiety? What happens when you distract yourself from having to feel the fear, the pain, or to deal with the emotions of things? It gets louder. And so the psychosomatic symptoms that you're experiencing become worse when you do not address them. They become worse. And so that fatigue or that cardiovascular problem or that heart problem or that freezing that you feel in your limbs or that skin condition or the autoimmune disorder, it becomes worse because you have not addressed the issue. So how am I supposed to address the issue? As a conscious being, what am I supposed to do? Well, what would a good boss do when the assistant keeps coming back with something important? A good boss will not ignore his assistant, right? A good husband would not ignore his wife. A good parent would not ignore its child. Of course, at one moment in time, you may not have the opportunity in that moment to address it, and that's okay. That may happen with our emotions. We think of something, we feel something, and now is just not a good time to address it, but we must come back to it. And so a good boss, a good leader will say to a subordinate, they will say, thank you so much. Give me a moment, and I'm going to come back and address this later on today, or we're going to talk about this later tonight. And so the same thing, we have to say to ourselves, thank you for this anxiety. It's going to be okay. I'm going to address this later tonight. Thank you for this sadness. It's okay. I'm going to address this tonight. Who are we talking to? Well, we're talking to the body, i.e., the subconscious mind. Remember, because it's synonymous. They work synonymously with each other. So you have to communicate it. Okay, we're going to come back and address it, and then keep your promise. Sit down the moment you have. If you have a moment right then and there, it's time to sit down and do the work to deal with the issue at hand. This is where we must become mentally fit. Remember, everyone says, do the work, you got to do the work. What the heck does it mean to do the work anyway? Well, just like being physically fit allows us to have physical prowess and good survival skills in the world, doing the work on a mental level allows you to have mental prowess to handle things that are happening in the energy realm around you. Because people are saying things, there's little jabs, you're catching little body language things. We're getting all these potential violations and slights that are happening all the time around us. And so we need to be very adept at navigating these energetic circumstances that are happening all around us all the time. If we're just ignoring, and we default to distract or deny, I deny that anything ever happened, or I just distract myself, then you're going to have psychosomatic symptoms in the body because it has to manifest itself some way. The energy has to go somewhere. But we must develop the skills, like the JOT method is one of the tools you use to do the work. Because when you do the JOT method, it doesn't just work some of the time, it works almost all of the time on your anxiety, on your depression. When we do it right and we learn how to do it, we become a ninja, right? Have you ever seen that ultimate warrior ninja or something like that? There's a television program where they have the contestant go through a ridiculous obstacle course. And so they're jumping from lily pad to lily pad, and they're jumping over obstacles, and then they're ducking things that are swinging at them, and then they got to swing like Tarzan to get to their goal. They have trained for this. When I was a kid, they had a show called American Gladiator, and they would have to go in on these crazy obstacle courses, and they have to contend with another gladiator that's trying to knock them down. And so they train to be able to become fit to go up against the challenges that are these contests. Likewise, this world is not going to suddenly become smooth. And so when we think, well, one day I'm going to heal and it's all going to be easy, wrong. The world doesn't become an easier place to live. You become an ultimate ninja warrior. So then you can smoothly move through the obstacle course that is the world. So then you can make it past the obstacles in your way and dodge the things that are coming to knock you off course. You become the warrior. When you are mentally an ultimate ninja warrior, you can feel a pang of distress inside yourself. And you say, what is this? Hold on, let me take a moment. Let me sit down. Let me grab my pen. Let me grab my paper. Let me work this out. On pen and paper, I'm feeling anxiety in my body. What is this? And let me meditate on it. And then you think for a second, you say, you know what happened recently? What I'm perceiving is that I recently got a bill in the mail and I don't know how I'm going to pay it. That's why I'm feeling this anxiety right now. And so you write it down on a piece of paper. And then you ask yourself, well, why is this bothering me so much? And so you go deeper into it. Well, it bothers me so much because I don't like having money, because if I don't have money, then I can't do the things I need to do. Okay, but why does this bother me so much? And you go deeper into it and you say, well, it's bothering me so much because if I don't have money to provide, then I'm nothing. And then you've uncovered a cognitive distortion. My worth is equal to my ability to provide. And then you say, wow, doing the work really uncovers some things that are deep within my psyche, these beliefs, these distortions that are causing me more distress than I really need to have. And so you write down the distortion on the piece of paper, and then you voice that distortion as if you were a child going to its mother. And then you become the mother or the father giving the advice to the child, and the child says to the mother, I'm nothing if I don't have money. And what would you say back to that child? Excuse me, son, no, don't ever say that. Or listen, my daughter, that's incorrect. You are everything. You are a creation of God. You are beautiful. You are worthy because you were born worthy. Your worth is intrinsic to you. I love you. Your father loves you. You're made from the same materials as the stars. So don't ever say you're not worthy because you don't have something material like money. The problem is not you. The problem is the capitalist system. But you have the brain to be able to navigate the system, and you will overcome this current obstacle that you are in. But you can't do that if you're telling yourself you're not worthy. And then just as you're saying that, you all of a sudden feel stabilized. You're back at homeostasis, which is balance, which is healing. And you go, wow, I just healed my own anxiety. I did the work. And guess what? You're not feeling any psychosomatic symptoms. There's no trauma that's trapped in the body. Is it because life became easier? Is it because this universe stopped hurting you and harming and assaulting? No. It's because you became the ultimate ninja warrior so that you're able to experience a traumatic event without being traumatized, without remaining in a traumatized state. So what are some ways that we can address the somatic symptoms outside of just using tools like the JOT method or STOP, S-T-O-P, stillness, thoughtfulness, observance, patience? Well, first of all, there's deep breathing exercises. Okay, listen, every animal has the freeze function. Your feeling of trauma in the body is an example. It's a manifestation of the freeze function. Every animal is able to re-regulate itself out of the freeze function. It's instinctual. It's instinctual. The reason humans have trouble with this is we go against our instincts and we distract ourselves and we deny ourselves of the trauma. Stop that. Stop. Take a moment. Slow down and breathe. That's instinctual. Do you need to learn a special pattern of no, just breathe. Practicing breathing allows the relaxation response in the body to activate. So when you're feeling a feeling of anxiety, of fear, one of the first things we should do is breathe. When someone's annoying you, irritating you, the first thing you do is breathe. A deep breath. Just let it out slow. I like to let it out like this. When I let it out through my lips like that, it helps my brain chemistry to slow down. We can practice progressive muscle relaxation. Let me show you how to do progressive muscle relaxation. Let's say you're feeling a stiffness in some part of your body. You must refuse to allow a stiffness to remain, okay? And so as you move the body, you're regaining control of your bodily symptoms. You want to start when it's small, but even if it's big, you're going to start small and move until you can get into all parts of the body. So start here with the fingers. Start moving every joint in the fingers. Just recognize your ability to move your joints. And then notice the wrist joints. And then control the fingers and the wrists simultaneously. And then get your elbows moving. And you bring in the shoulders. You can move gracefully, get every joint involved. You can wave. And then get your neck moving. As you move your neck, notice your jaw. You gotta move all this. All of this belongs to you. And that's what you say to yourself. I am safe. All of this belongs to me. I am in control. I will not lose any of this. It's a move it or lose it situation, right? So then we start to move the spine. You can go down. You can stretch. The other way. Is all this really helpful? Yes. We need to regain control of the body. So much of the pain and the stress and the symptoms of the body are psychosomatic. For instance, right now as an exercise, if you stand up, hopefully you're already standing with me. If you stand up right now and you just keep your knees locked, but then try to reach your toes. Go down and just kind of stop where you can't go any further. Take note of the distance from your hands, from the floor, your toes. Take note of how far you went. Come back up. And now do this. Tell your brain, I'm serious, tell your brain, I can go further than that. Tell your brain that just 2 times. Just say, I can go further than that. I can go further than that. And then go back down. Not even joking. And you will notice suddenly you are able to get much further than you were able to get the first time. Why is this? Because the body and the subconscious mind are one. You thought that the body itself could not move further than that first position, but you just need to give it permission. So we have to heal our body by giving ourselves permission to heal. We have to release the pain and the fear from the parts of the body that are locked by giving it permission to release. So you say to yourself, I am replacing this fear with confidence, and then you release it. But if you don't understand the subconscious mind, you're going to miss it. Meditation. Every single day, I need 30 minutes of meditation. You can combine it with a little stretching like this. Body scan meditation is where you direct attention to different parts of your body. You can literally picture a beam scanning up or down your body. So you can start from your toes. You're just going to check in with every part of the body like a scan. How the toes doing, how the ankles doing, get them moving around. And then move each part, but feel the energy sensation moving through. And the energy of your attention on that body part is felt. So now you're becoming more attuned directly, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Instead of being severed from the body, you're becoming attuned with the body. Mindfulness meditation is paying attention to everything in your surroundings. I'm noticing the light right now. I'm noticing the smell right now. I'm noticing the taste in my mouth right now. I'm noticing the way my body feels right now. I'm noticing the gravity, the way my butt feels on the seat or my feet on the ground. That's mindfulness meditation. These forms of meditation help to ground us and help us to find our equilibrium and bring us back to homeostasis, that is balance. Because when we're at balance, then we're healed. So please, don't ignore the somatic parts of my healing program. 30 minutes a day, meditation. 30 minutes a day, exercise that's connecting to the body. And learn the skills of jap methods so you too can be an ultimate ninja warrior when it comes to mental health and the metaphysical.